Welcome to Shovelware Diggers. Our dig team's currently excavating the Softkey Shareware 2000 Hit Games 2CD collection. You can find a link in the video description containing the entire directory structure of this archive. Once again, we have a batch of team digs, and here's what our diggers have for week 169. For more information on how to join the dig team, simply follow the Patreon link in the video description. Now without further ado, let's get started. First up, Zed Supremus and the Great Codholio have dug up DOSGAMES /arcade Danger 4. Kind of wondering if maybe there was like a Danger 1, 2, and 3, or maybe it's just Danger by itself. Okay, well, just got the executable, so Danger. Interesting. So we have to choose our display type, and we can use a capital letter to omit the opening song. Why would we want to do that? Let's go for VGA. Oh, it's Islands of Danger again. I'm pretty sure we've already seen this. Okay, so I was looking through the backlog of stuff, and it doesn't look like we've actually seen this game yet. Like, we might have, but I thought we'd had, but maybe we didn't. But, well, we'll give it a quick go again, just in case I haven't covered it before. But basically, it's made by Richard Carr, copyright Carr Software, Shareware game. And basically the idea is it's a text mode game. So you play a sort of hovercraft that moves around. You can actually shoot and move in different directions. So kind of like a twin stick shooter here. So we have our movement keys aside there, and we have our shooting keys. Although what's weird here is that you only have like 4 movement keys, and yet you have 9 shooting keys. Well, the 5 key also doubles as down keys, so I don't know. In any case, will you be using a joystick? Nope. And that would be our title theme. Let's just begin. Okay. And as you can see, it plays in the high resolution text mode. I think it's possible to get it to play in a low res text mode, but also the sound effects are kind of annoying. And yeah, it says you can hold multiple keys at once, but it's more apt to say that you can hold one of each kind of key at a time. And it's actually auto-firing, so you don't have to hold the numeric keypad keys. So the idea is we need to find the missile launchers and destroy them without getting totally decimated by the missiles themselves. So that was a missile launcher there, so now it's actually interesting, when it fires a missile, it'll actually do it at an angle to try and avoid going into the line of fire, but as you can see, we just destroyed the missile launcher. And that's first island cleared. So let's continue. So levels are going to get progressively harder. So now we actually have 2 missile launchers right near each other. So you got to watch out for when they actually launch some missiles at us. Because the missiles do actually make an effort to dodge you, but okay, it looks like there's more to it. So this purple stuff here is like this sort of like slow swamp. So if you try to move through the swamp, it takes you longer. So we're just going to go right around the edge here. Well, there's mountains in the way. If you try to move past a mountain, you'll crash and burn, so let's not do that. And that's Island 2 cleared. Okay, level 3 is... we've already got like 3 missile launchers in the area, so gotta be careful about that. This is actually a game I've wanted to cover on Ancient DOS games for some time now, but I just always end up with higher priorities with different games, so what are you gonna do? Oh, we got a couple of missiles incoming here. There we go. Let's destroy the launcher here. Up. Deal with the missiles. Missiles take top priority because they can dodge around, and you only have to get hit once to die, so... And you'll notice that there's a sort of blast that occurs when you destroy a missile launcher. I'm pretty sure if you're too close to the launchers when you destroy them, they'll actually destroy you in the process from the blast. So something to keep in mind. Okay, are you the last missile launcher? You are not. There are a lot of missile launchers in this level. There we go. I find it interesting that it's giving us 4 extra lives every time we beat a level, so we're already up to 18 extra lives. And yeah, it's actually telling us right here, there were 12 launchers on this island. And yeah, it's actually mentioning right here how the game actually has a sort of team play mode, where you can actually have multiple gunners going at the same time. Although I'm not entirely certain how that works. Because as it stands, you can pretty much play the game 2-player just by having one person on the movement controls and another person on the firing controls, so you don't have to play it yourself. But yeah, this is a game I want to cover in greater detail on ADG in the future, so I think we can just call it here. So this is Islands of Danger. It's actually a really fun game, despite how incredibly simple it looks. And actually, despite how incredibly simple it plays, even. But yeah, definitely something... Whoops. Definitely something to take a better look at in the future. Next up, Robert Mackey and RuneFox have dug up WINGAMES /arcade2 /audio. Kind of curious that something called audio would be in the Arcade 2 folder. Not quite sure what to make of this. But we got 2 executables here. It's just kind of weird. We've got something called audio CIP and something called PZL_make. So this is Audio Cipher by Mosquito Hawk Software. Copyright 94, William Hawes. Or Howes. Audio Cipher is shareware. Encourage to pass copy along. Benefits of registering. More puzzles to solve. Oh. Okay, so this is a game. Based on Audio Cipher puzzles? Not entirely certain what they mean by that, but that should be interesting. What's the price that they're asking for? And the person's asking for $14.95. That's $9.95 for the game itself, and then $5 for shipping and handling. Okay, the other executable is actually an editor. So that's kind of interesting that it includes both the main game and the editor in the shareware version. Usually you would reserve like an editor for a full registered product, but I'm not entirely certain what to expect here. Particularly because these PZL files are probably the actual, like, puzzles, and there's only 6 of them. But let's see what we got. So, starting off with a load puzzle. Interesting. Like, this is all, like, stuff that would have been popular at the time. Well, not necessarily popular, like, well, Star Trek would have been, like... what, late 60s? Well, let's go with Star Trek Dr. McCoy. Let's see what happens. Okay. Once again, we've got a resizable... What? Okay, you don't come across that every so often. So... the window has clearly been sized for a particular size. There's no maximize button. But when I try to resize it, it literally doesn't work. The resize activates, but the window is being locked into its current size no matter what I do for resizing. Well, that's one way to that's one way to lock out the maximizing and window size changing. Like, I mean, you'd only do something like that if you wanted this special border around it instead of the typical single border or whatnot. Funny thing is I can almost tell what this is without even having to listen to the audio clip. Because it's Star Trek, it's Dr. McCoy. It's going to be, I'm a doctor, not a something. And it's that something that we got to figure out. So what happens if we hit play? Interesting. So it's actually cut up the sound clip and mixed that around too. Like, listen to that. So it's actually scrambled the sound clip along with the letters. Okay. So if I click on an I... Okay, so it's scrambled. So all of these letters are in here. Are we just having to... Although I'm not entirely certain, like, what it's doing when I do that. Like, if I click on the A here, there's only one A. And if I click on the E, is it going to turn the A into an E and all the E's into an A? That's exactly what it did. So it hasn't scrambled the letters so much as it's scrambled what letters equate to what letters. It's an interesting way of doing it. And then I'm noticing here that it's actually got all the different letters in order. So we could probably click on these instead if we really wanted to. Okay, so we've got it mostly figured out, so let's see what happens now.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
I know what it is. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool. Doing it as a... not only scrambling the sound clip, but the words as well. So if we hit reveal...
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Well, out of the choices here, the Star Wars Han Solo one is probably the one I'll get most likely figure out. So what have we got here? I already know what that is. It's great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. Yeah, I could figure that out without even unscrambling any of this, but let's do it anyways. So, GREATSHOKID was 1 in a...
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
I guess I know my Star Wars, huh? Okay, let's pick one that I'm probably not going to recognize whatsoever. So, I think out of all of this... Well, I have no idea what this infamous old lady's going to be. So what if... Well, it's not very big, whatever it is. Yeah, that might as well just be gibberish. Okay.
No!
Oh, it actually makes a different sound effect if you get the replacement wrong. So this wasn't an A, so it's definitely an I then. So that means the I's are in the correct spot now. But then what's the next letter? I guess V? Okay, so that means this is I've. I actually already know what it is. I don't know what it's from, but I already know what it is. It would help if I knew how to spell. I've fallen, and I can't get up.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I have no idea where that particular soundbite was taken from, but there you go. So yeah, this was Audio Cipher. This is actually a pretty fun idea. The only trouble is that it is actually pulling stuff from actual media. But then, would that qualify as fair use is an interesting point, because usually what ends up happening in terms of copyright and fair use is using like tiny little bits of stuff is usually okay under most circumstances. But we're talking about a game that does nothing but use tiny clips of things. So would that still qualify as fair use? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I wouldn't be able to tell for certain. But it's still an interesting concept, taking audio quotes, mixing them up, like scrambling them, and then having to unscramble them. The only trouble is that once you've done one, well, you already know what it is, and that's it. So this kind of thing would probably work better if you had a massive library of clips to pull from. But as it stands, only having 6 clips, like once you've gone through all 6, well, that's kind of it. I mean, how many does the full registered game have? Yeah, this doesn't actually tell you how many audio ciphers are available in the full game. Although we could probably take an educated guess because it comes on a single 1.44 megabyte floppy disk. And each of these audio clips is about 20 to 40 kilobytes. So let's just say 32 kilobytes on average. We'll divide that by 3720, and we get 49. So minus the size of the program, which was 152 kilobytes, another 86 for that, and then a few for the files there. So based on that, I think you'd be able to fit about 40 audio clips onto a single 1.44 megabyte floppy disk. So that would be about the most you would get. Now, you can still make your own with the editor, but that would be about the limit. It's about 40 audio clips. So yeah, this is definitely something that would work better nowadays, just with the higher memory availability and stuff like that, but it's still a very cool idea, especially for when this came out. If anybody knows of any similar programs like this exist, leave it in the comments, because that'd be interesting. And our last dig for today comes from Jonathan Gosselin, an anonymous freak. DOSGAMES /PB/looper. Who's gonna bet this is another PCS table? COM file at 64 kilobytes? Yeah, probably a PCS table. Although it has a couple extra files here. Apparently a doc file, probably from when this was made, and a CMT file? Looks like it was whatever BBS this came from. It was uploaded to it in 1991. So let's just quickly type these things out. So type looper.doc, use shift keys to shoot, and move flippers. Yep, that sums it up. And 1000 BBS.CMT. From 1000 BBS, Toronto, Ontario. Yeah, so Softkey was a Canadian company, so that kind of makes sense that it would primarily be gleaming this software off of Canadian BBSs. But in any case, Looper. Copyright RG Hayes. So definitely a PCS table. Okay, that's actually kind of interesting what they've done with the sort of airplanes in the artwork there, because remember, this game uses vector graphics. So to be able to achieve that kind of plane look with the vector graphics that are in play here would be pretty tricky, especially with the smoke trails and everything. Well, let's give it a try. Well, so far, typical PCS-style gameplay. Well, that was a hungry outlane. Hopefully that doesn't become an issue. So one of the things that's tricky about PCS tables is that you can't nudge in the Pinball Construction Set. So the lack of nudging means that it really is completely up to luck almost, whether or not you're gonna play a table well. I do like that they're trying to emulate a sort of center post there, but I don't think center posts work very well in PCS, like when you try to do them, just because of the way the hit detection's working. The idea behind a center post in a table is to not only allow it so that oh, it does work! how about that? The center post actually does do what it's supposed to. So yeah, on a real pinball machine, center posts are usually below the center posts are usually below the flippers and are a means to allow the flippers to be further apart from each other, whilst not making the center hole really gaping large. Because the idea is, if the ball hits the center post directly, it should bounce back up and into the play field. Now, depending on where the center post is, it might have to be more direct than in other cases, depending on like how big the center post is or how big the range is between the flippers. So on some tables, it has to be like straight dead on to the middle of the center post in order to come back up. But on this table here, because it's above the flippers, and I accidentally just put it in 2-player mode. Oh well. Because it's above the flippers, we pretty much has an entire range of possibilities for getting the ball back into play. But yeah, on a normal pinball table that has a center post, it would actually be below the flippers. And the funny thing is there's an example of how, because it wasn't directly on, the center post didn't stop the ball from draining, which again was what would happen on a real pinball machine. If the ball is just ever so slightly not centered on that post when it hits it, it's still going down. So yeah, having the center post in the table like that is kind of neat, even if it isn't like perfectly done in terms of the position, because I don't think I know of a single pinball table, like real pinball table in existence, that has a center post above the flippers. But the fact that it works is intriguing, given the way the physics in this game works. And other than that, the pinball table is actually pretty basic. Except the ball is shooting like crazy. Like, I mean, you can adjust certain settings, and I get the impression that the person who put this together has just bumped the speed up to maximum. But it's otherwise other than the center post and the graphics, it's otherwise a pretty basic pinball construction set table. So nothing too special, but still interesting.